If you think about it, if you're spending $4 million on one of these Super Bowl ads, you want to make sure that you are hyping the fact that these are the best ads of the year. You want people to make sure they shush their friends during the game and watch these things.
Folks watching the game forget that this is a business.
I love this
Advertising is money spent. It's got to generate a profit. How do you determine, how does the industry decide whether the $4 million spent on 30 seconds was worth it?
Well, there's a few things. First of all, we do see advertisers trying to milk as much out of this buy as they can. You just saw the Force, that really fabulous ad from Volkswagen several years ago. They were one of the first marketers who released their spot early in order to sort of generate this buzz on social media and amortize that, you know, really expensive 30-second buy. Genius move. And in fact, we've seen a lot of marketers copy it. This is the first year we're actually seeing marketers release, many marketers release teaser spots, ads for the ads in the game. I mean, they're really going all out for this stuff.
Abby, how do we know this? I watch the ads. I really do. I take breaks on extra points and that, and I do watch the ad. I love the ads. But you know, I love the Clydesdales. I don't drink Budweiser.
What do you drink?
I thought I drink wine.
I drink wine. It's not a beer.
But I don't. You know, the Coke ads have been terrific. I'm a Pepsi person. I don't. You know, I love Clint Eastwood, but I don't buy a crack. Do they work for all that money?
That is the $4 million question this year.
Great.
And, you know, it's really hard to determine. They do work for certain types of advertisers with certain types of goals. So, you know, we talk a lot about advertisers who need to generate awareness, broad awareness, all at once, you know, amongst kind of the entire country.
Right.
They're a great opportunity for that. You don't get anything else like that today on television. They work for some of these big advertisers who have owned the game and sort of become synonymous with it. You mentioned Budweiser, for example, you know, the Clydesdales. One of the challenges is you want the ads to stand out and be entertaining, and you want people to love them, right? But you also need people to associate them with your product. So how do you create an ad that does both? I think Budweiser is a great example. You know, you have this fabulous ad from last year that starred the horse trainer and the Clydesdale, one of the best ads of the game. By the way, also one of the most effective ads of the game. When you asked people about it afterwards, you know, what ads do they remember? Do they remember the brand that the ad was marketing, you know? And that one really worked.
But that's how you go into determining whether the ad was successful, by these sort of highly, I suppose, unscientific, subjective responses. There really isn't a way for Budweiser to know whether the ad generated additional sales, right?
It's very tough to isolate it to that specific ad at that specific moment in time. But what you do see is the opportunity to use this big game to launch a new campaign, that sort of thing. And then how you would measure that is you would back into it. You know, there's some econometric modeling, that sort of thing. But it's hard to isolate it to that 30 seconds.
Do the ad agencies jack up what they charge?
Well, these are very highly produced ads. I mean, that Budweiser ad was not cheap, I guarantee you. You know, they get high profile.
It wasn't cheap to produce, but those ad agencies, when they walk into Budweiser, do they jack their rates twice as much knowing it's Super Bowl time?
Well, they better not, because Budweiser's a client all year long, right? Not just for the Super Bowl, but they're still very expensive to produce. So that $4 million, that's just the price of entry.
Is a company like InBev, which owns Budweiser, stuck at this point? In other words, they know that year in, year out, they're just going to have to drop the dough in the Super Bowl, because if they're not there, it's much worse than spending the money and not generating the additional sales.
Well, if they're not there, their competitor will be there, right? So I remember a few years ago, Hyundai, which never used to be in the game, used that first. One of the longtime advertisers dropped out of the game, decided they weren't going to be in it. I think it was Pepsi that year. And suddenly, the most kind of prime real estate in the game, which is that first spot in that first pod right after kickoff, was up for grabs. Hyundai snuck into that pod and launched their quality assurance program. That the Super Bowl was this platform for which they launched a campaign, a program, a marketing play that really fueled Hyundai to some really incredible sales years.
Abby, let me ask you a tangential question. Richard Sherman, the controversial Seahawks guy, is he a marketing dream or a marketing nightmare?
I think he's a marketing dream.
Totally.
I think he knows yeah. Absolutely. This guy is clever. You know, he knows exactly what he's doing.
I love him. I agree.
Me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we were talking about Peyton Manning versus Richard Sherman. Yeah. What a great storyline that is in the game. He is suddenly on everybody's lips. You know, he's a defensive back. I mean, how often do we end up talking about that position player in pop culture and in marketing?
How about social media? Look what Oreo did last year during the blackout of the game. They spent no money but got all the bang. You know, is there an argument to be made if you really attack social media, that's as valuable as spending millions of dollars on real-time ads on TV?
Well, interestingly, Oreo actually was in the game last year for the first time, I think. So they did spend a significant amount to be in the game. But you're right. The thing everyone remembers is not the game, not the ad in the game, but the tweet. That was retweeted about 16,000 times when they tweeted, "You can still dunk in the dark" during the blackout. There is a really interesting thing happening in marketing right now, which is agencies and marketers are asking themselves, how do we respond more quickly, respond to events that are happening in near real time? They set themselves up to do this during big events like the Super Bowl.